Classic television. It's rare in any given month I get enough classic TV shows on DVD to devote a whole review just to them, but this month I can. And we're going to start off with Dennis the Menace, the complete first season. This is the original Dennis the Menace show. Anybody who, has been alive in the last 50 years should remember it. Has been on TV and reruns in its original run for decades, and it's, of course, the show that originated the Hey Mr. Wilson, which I'm sure many people are familiar with. This season aired from 1959 to 1960, and of course, because TV seasons were longer back then, that means you get 32 episodes of the show on the DVD set, and on top of that, you get a whole bunch of extra features. There's an all-new conversation with Gloria Henry and Jeannie Russell, a radio interview with Gloria Henry and Jeannie Russell, as well as original promos, and a bonus episode of the Donna Reed show called Donna Decorates, which features Jay North as Dennis Mitchell and Joseph Kearns as Mr. Wilson. So that's a lot of extra features for, a lot of these sets tend to come out with nothing on them. I'm very pleased that Shout Factory continues to uphold their standard of excellence and bring a whole bunch of extras for a great show that people, have really loved for the past 50 years. The show, it holds up as much as you'd expect it to. It's very much a product of its time. I don't think newer audiences are going to necessarily warm to it the way people who grew up watching it are going to, but, it's very fun to go back and revisit it. I'm not old enough to remember the show during its original run, but I used to watch it in reruns all the time when I was a kid, so certainly a fun show to revisit, and maybe someday when my kids are a little older I'll even play it for them. Next up we have Leave It To Beaver, Season 6, the final season of the classic show. This was the season that ended in 1963, and you get 39 episodes. These are restored and remastered episodes from high-definition transfers of the original film elements. So the show looks pretty darn good comparatively speaking, considering that it's 50 years old. It does look pretty good. There's one bonus feature. It's an audio interview with Tony Dow from the internet radio Stu's show. Leave It To Beaver. I mean, it's Leave It To Beaver. I don't know what more you can really say about it. It is a classic TV show. It's a great sitcom. Again, a show I grew up watching reruns of, and it's very wholesome. It's very old-fashioned, and it's very indicative of America at the time. To me, it's a perfect snapshot of what this country was like back in those days, and it's actually, to me, very historical, I think. Of course, it's fiction, but it really does kind of capture what things were like back then, I think, to a large degree. At least an idealized version of it, but it certainly is interesting to see how far modern fiction has come from Leave It To Beaver to, Modern Family and things like that. So worth checking out. Of course, if you're a fan, you have the first 5 seasons, you have to finish your collection. Next up, we have Upstairs, Downstairs, Series 1, the 40th Anniversary Edition. This is brand new from Acorn Media. Of course, the classic show Upstairs, Downstairs, well-loved British drama about the difference in class between the working class and the rich, and they all share a home, the servants and the rich people. It's a 4-disc set. It includes over 6 hours of brand new bonus features. A ton of stuff included. You get a making of Upstairs Downstairs Part 1, because there's a whole bunch of new Upstairs Downstairs DVDs out. Episode commentaries for each episode, and alternate pilot episodes. So something very interesting, I think, to fans who have watched this show many times before. Of course, you have a great cast: Gene Marsh, David Langton, Gordon Jackson, Christopher Beanie, Pauline Collins. Not necessarily household names, but when you watch the show, you will see there isn't a single bad performance in the bunch. It's a little dated, of course. The show obviously is made in the 70s, so of course, even though it's a period piece, there certainly is some costume and some film quality stuff that does date the show a little bit, but I don't think you can watch it and not recognize that this is a real high quality drama show that certainly anybody who has an interest in British television, which, as many of you know, I'm one of those people, should take a look at this one. And if you're going to get Upstairs Downstairs, the 40th Anniversary Edition really is the way to go, because it does have all the new extra features. So definitely worth taking a look at that one. Next up from PBS, we have the Pioneers of Television, which is a series of 4 DVDs, westerns, local kids TV, crime dramas, and science fiction. And this is a great show. They did it a couple years ago and have now revisited it with new genres that they're focusing on. And it really does go back to the kind of, the pioneers of television. These are shows, documentaries about the early days of television. So like in crime dramas, we look at Dragnet, The Untouchables, Mission Impossible, I Spy, classics like that. science fiction one, we focus on Gene Roddenberry in Star Trek and Rod Serling in The Twilight Zone. Of course, that was my favorite episode. With the local kids TV, we talk about Time for Beanie and Jim Henson and all the great classics, Romper Room and Howdy Doody, stuff like that. And then of course with westerns, Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, The Big Valley, The Wild Wild West, Bonanza, Gunsmoke. I mean, really, there's just nothing not to like about these. Each episode is a 60-minute documentary. It really gives you a nice in-depth look at the history of television. And frankly, if you're a television watcher, a television junkie like I am, I don't see how you can't find these shows at least somewhat interesting. Especially with the hour-long running time. They're brisk, but they're full of information, to the point, and very enjoyable. Finally, we have Gun Will Travel, the 5th season of Volume 2, a 3-disc set. It's the second half of the season, the last 19 episodes of the show, starring Richard Boone as Paladin, of course. And this is a kind of a fun Western show. It's your typical, well, have gun, will travel. I mean, that pretty much says it all. The guy has a gun, he travels, he goes around from town to town, righting wrongs, helping people when he needs to. Very classic kind of TV approach, really, from everything from this type of show to things like The Incredible Hulk and all sorts of TV shows from since then and until now. But it's the 5th season, it's Volume 2. If you've been collecting the show all along, there's no reason not to get this one. As always, I'm not thrilled that Paramount chose to split the season into 2. I'd rather see complete season collections, but at least they're continuing to put the shows out, which is really, I think, the main goal here, is for people to be able to watch these shows whenever they want. So Have Gun Will Travel, not the greatest Western show ever, not the greatest TV show ever, but certainly a good show, worth watching. And if you've been collecting the DVDs, this is the best way to finish out your collection until the next volume comes out.